too far into the program portion of the webinar this evening, we want to just do a few quick introductions on who's on your panel this evening. My name is Tori White. I'm the Senior Recruitment Coordinator for Lakehead University. I am based out of the Aurelia campus, but do support students out of Thunder Bay and Aurelia. I'll turn it over to Julie.
Hi everyone, my name is Julie and I'm the Recruitment Admissions Officer at Lakehead University. I'm also an alumni of Lakehead's English program and I'm born and raised in Thunder Bay, so I'm based out of the Thunder Bay campus and look forward to assisting you on your journey to Lakehead tonight.
And I'm going to let our members of our Faculty of Education introduce themselves as well.
Good evening, my name is Wayne Morville. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Education. I've been in this job for 2.5 years and I've been at Lakehead for 16 years after moving here from Australia. And in a previous life, I was a secondary high school science and mathematics teacher. It's good that you could join us this evening.
Good evening. Thanks everyone for coming today. My name is Tina Polsino. I'm an undergraduate program administrator in the Faculty of Education, and I work closely with Dr. Kerr and with academic advising, recruitment, and anything that comes up.
Hi everyone, my name is Meredith Lovell-Johnston. I am at the Aurelia campus. My area is early literacy, and that is what I teach in the undergraduate program. But I'm also the chair of graduate studies, so I spend my time between undergraduate and graduate.
Hi folks, thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Don Kerr. I'm also a former math teacher, and now I'm chair of undergraduate programs in Thunder Bay.
Fantastic. So you can see we have a wealth of knowledge joining you this evening and to answer all those questions and to tell you a little bit more about our consecutive education program. Before we go into that, I want to talk a little bit about Lakehead. And, you know, at Lakehead, we really encourage students to pursue their passion and step out of the crowd and try something new. And Lakehead University is Canada's #2 undergraduate research university. And it's through research that our students have those opportunities to work alongside with renowned faculty and be a part of creating something new and exciting, not only changing their future, but the future around us as well. And our grads cite that it's our small class sizes that contribute to their success. And many times that's in an influential professor that knew them by name that helped them along their journey. Lakehead University has an unbeatable financial aid package. We're #1 in Ontario for the amount of funds that we provide our students annually in financial support, with over $11 million provided to our students on an annual basis. We have over 65 different programs, and this really helps our students to prepare for the future. And many of our students have experiential learning in it. We're going to talk a lot about the placements that are part of our consecutive education program that really allow students to learn by doing. It's not just in the classroom, but applying those skills in a practical hands-on base. Overall at Lakehead, 97.7% of our grads are finding a career in their field within 2 years of graduation, really preparing our students for success. And our Bachelor of Education students actually have a higher grad to employment rate than that. So that's fantastic. Great time for coming into this industry. All right, so I'm going to turn it over now to the Faculty of Education to chat with you a little bit more about the program and how it runs on our 2 campuses.
As Tori said, we have campuses in both Aurelia and Thunder Bay. The Thunder Bay campus has been up and running since the early 1960s, and in Aurelia since 2009. And over that period of time, we've graduated around 16,000 teachers who have joined the teaching workforce, not just in Ontario, but across the country as well. Our programs are fully accredited by the Ontario College of Teachers, which means that they are certified as producing teachers who are ready to join the profession. And the College of Teachers also registers our graduates so that they're eligible to teach in Ontario and across Canada and increasingly across the world. And so that the qualifications you get from Lakehead are recognised globally, and that's always an important point to keep in mind. In our teacher education programs, we also work very closely with the Ministry of Education school boards, teacher unions, subject associations, and various groups connected with education, basically in order to make sure that what we're doing is preparing people to go into the profession and be ready from day one to actually make a positive contribution to the profession. The faculty within the field of education, we have 27 faculty members. Many of them are well known in their field across the world. Many of them have won awards for their teaching, and many of them actually, in terms of their research, are well recognized and actually edit journals and work for a number of organizations outside the university. And some of our main strengths are in mathematics education, environmental education, and Indigenous education. In support of our full-time faculty members, we also have around 100 contract lecturers who contribute greatly to our program. Many of these folks are actually practicing teachers, and so they keep us up to date with what's happening in schools and also looking at where the trends are coming from in the future. Education is never static, and so we do spend a lot of time making sure that we are keeping everything up to date, and also making sure that through our engagements with schools that we know where students are coming from, and so that we can work to deliver the best possible program for people coming into our consecutive education programs. So Tori, that's about a quick introduction. Shall we move on to the next slide? And I think I got this one as well. So at the moment, if you're looking at joining our education programs, it's actually a really interesting time because there is a huge shortage of teachers in Ontario for this year and actually probably the next 2 or 3 years. And so this is both for secondary teachers and for elementary teachers. Now, if you've got an interest or a passion in French, any of the sciences, but particularly chemistry and physics, mathematics, visual arts, and music, then of course there's always actually a shortage in those fields, but it's become more pronounced over the last few years. And computing and Indigenous education is also in short supply as well. But one thing that people need to remember is that because our Bachelor of Education is so well regarded across the province, across the country, there are actually teacher shortages across the country and also overseas as well. And I think Don will speak later about possibilities for international placements. But once the pandemic has subsided, one of the main growth areas in education careers is actually international schools in various places around the world. And so that might be something I wish to follow up on as well. So it's a good time to be looking at teaching as a career, and there are lots of jobs out there. And remember, you're not just committed to following a teaching path. There are many other jobs where your Bachelor of Education degree will take you as well. So Tori, can we move on to the next one? Okay, so as Tori said, around 95% of students who start at our programs graduate. That's actually a bit higher now. It's gone up to around 96, 97%, and over 98% of our graduates end up being employed full-time. The path into the profession tends to vary a bit with various boards. There are short-term appointments, long-term appointments, and then full-time appointments. But realistically, if you're in one of those areas of shortage, we've had people the last 2 years have been offered jobs before they've actually finished their program, which is always a good place to be. And both of our programs, Aurelia and Thunder Bay, have about the same percentages for gaining employment. And so these are above the provincial averages. And that includes both Ontario and further afield. So who would like to take over talking about Thunder Bay and Aurelia?
Shall I say a little bit?
Sure.
I can say that we do offer our consecutive programs, our consecutive education programs on both our campuses, at both in Thunder Bay and in Aurelia. We have Our education programs are a PJ stream and an IS stream. So PJ is K to 6, K to grade 6, and IS is grade 7 to grade 12. We have a large PJ program on both campuses. And in Aurelia, we've just started a new IS program. So we have a limited registration program in IS in Aurelia starting this year. And so you could apply for that next year. And an established IS program in Thunder Bay as well.
I can speak a little bit to Aurelia because I'm the panelist from Aurelia here. In Aurelia, we have a very thriving PJ program, as Dr. Kerr said. As well, you know, we do have the beginning of the IS program. And I will say that in both cases, our programs are, I don't think what I was looking for, but there's not a benefit of going to one campus over the other. Our programs are congruent. So that was the point that I wanted to make.
So for entry into I think the people who are with us this evening are primarily interested in the consecutive program. So for entry into a consecutive program, you need to have finished an undergraduate degree. Some people will have finished a 4-year degree and worked for a couple of years. Some people will be just finishing up, coming to the end of their 4-year degree. The teacher education program is a 2-year program in Ontario. Some places you can do it 16 months straight through. We run 2 consecutive academic years. So it's September through April, 1 year, and then September through April again the next year. And to apply to all the teacher education programs, you do it through the TEAS website. Wayne, do you want to say a little bit about the Indigenous education programs?
Sorry, I was just reading the chat and seeing what was going on there. Yes, so with our Indigenous education programs, at the moment, this is based in Thunder Bay. And really, there are 3 programs which people can undertake. The first one is our Honours Bachelor of Education, which is a 5-year program, which will certify you to teach in elementary schools, and then the BA or BSc BEd General program with an Indigenous Studies major, which will certify you to teach in secondary schools. And so we're spending a lot of time actually revamping these courses at the moment to make them much more community focused and also land-based as well. And so these programs are quite similar to our main programs, but actually quite different as well, because with both of them, we spend a lot more time working with people's communities and looking at what the opportunities are for helping those communities to develop their own education programs and to be self-sustaining. The other part of it is a language program. So at the moment we offer Ojibwe, Ojibwe and Cree. So if you're interested in teaching Indigenous languages, those programs are available both as a diploma program and as part of our undergraduate programs as well. So next slide, please.
So we'll say a little bit about the 2 divisions, our PJ division and our IS division, and the teachables in the IS. And Meredith, do you want to say a little bit about the PJ to start with?
Sure. So our program is designed for the PJ or primary junior, is designed for people who are looking to teach younger children. And so this type of program really is about how to be a good teacher, not necessarily something that's focused on one specific program area. So an undergraduate PJ degree is more of a generalist degree. You will take classes that have to do with the curriculum areas, all of the curriculum areas, language arts, which is of course most important because that's mine, science, math, social studies, etc. But as well, you'll get classes that talk about, the legal parts of being a teacher, the professional parts of being a teacher, psychology and child development. So it's quite a comprehensive type program. Now, one of the things that is unique to our program is that we have what's called the math competency exam. So you may have heard that the provincial government is looking for students to have math competency to grade 6 or higher to teach children who are in kindergarten to grade 6. So that's actually not new for our faculty because we've been doing that for a while. So at the beginning of the program, what happens is there is an opportunity to write the math competency exam. And based on that, what happens is it helps us to look at who is really confident in their math skills and who might need a little bit more help. And we have a very good team of math instructors who work with students to help them feel confident so that when you're going out and being a supply teacher for a grade 6 classroom, you have an idea of what you're talking about, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about the PPOD program because that's specific to Thunder Bay?
For sure. So in Thunder Bay, we offer the pod for the first year, or we group our students into pods for the first year of the PJ program. And the pod is a group of courses that you take where you take the courses in one of the local elementary schools. So for 1 day a week, you go into a local elementary school and you take your university courses with your university instructor, but in the elementary school. We find this a really good way to learn a bit about the life of schools, to start to think about how you will apply what you're learning in your class to the classroom. And there's some really fantastic opportunities to develop as a result. I visited pods in some of the local schools where our students are learning something with their instructor, and then they go into one of the classrooms and they try it out in the classroom, or they observe something going on and then they go back to talk about it. Or 2 or 3 students will work together, and one of them will do a little mini lesson for 2 grade 2 students, say, and then they'll back up and the other 2 peers will critique what they've just seen and say, hey, why don't you try like this? Or what if you ask this question? And then they'll take turns. They'll maybe have stations where some other students will come along and they'll try another mini lesson with them. So it can be a really fantastic way to learn about the life of a school and to start to practice some of those teaching skills. And our PJ programs are available in both Thunder Bay and Aurelia. So at the IS level, you'll choose 2 teachable subjects. So these are probably the areas that you have, you've done an undergraduate degree in English or math. You'll need to have a certain breadth in each of your teachable areas, and Tina can say a bit more about that. But for your first teachable, you'll need 5 FCEs, and for your second teachable, you'll need 3 FCEs. So every university uses a slightly different system. At Lakehead, an FCE is 1 full credit equivalent, which is 1 full year course. So when we say you have 3 FCEs, you have 3 full year courses in that area, in that subject area. Tina, do you want to say a bit more about the teachables?
And then 1/2 of the FCE, so that's usually about 1 term, has to be at the 3rd or 4th year level to satisfy the teachable requirement. In Thunder Bay, we have 17 teachables. In Aurelia, we have 4. The 4 in Aurelia are English, geography, social science, general, and history. What I always like to tell students is if you're trying to figure out what you want for your teachables, always pick an area that you love. So like me, I'm an English major and my first teachable is English. And if you love math, then you would pick math. It's basically pick a subject that you really enjoy because you're going to spend a lot of time with that particular subject and that for as long as you're going to be a teacher. And I think there's a slide that shows all of the teachables, isn't there? Yeah, there they are. So like I said, there's 17 of them. I wanted to point out that some of them are interdisciplinary. So what does that mean? It usually means you need 3 subjects in order to fulfill the requirement for a particular teachable. Environmental science is one of them. Social science, general is another. And then the other ones that I'll point out, music and visual arts, you require an actual undergrad degree in those areas to satisfy the requirement, as well as for health and physical education, you need to have completed an kinesiology degree. And for French, you need 5 FCEs to satisfy that particular teachable.
One of the things to know about teachables is if you have any questions, you should reach out to Tina. Tina is one of the people that helps assess when students apply and they say, you know, does this count as a math teachable or a science teachable? Tina's the expert on that. So if you have questions about your own transcript, your own course of study, I strongly encourage you to reach out to Tina, and she can often say, you know, this course would count in that area, or, you know, you need an extra course, but you might be able to take it online or something like that. So she's a huge resource for thinking through what would be an appropriate teachable for you and whether you have the courses required for that teachable.
I work very closely with the admissions officers, and we sit down and look at course descriptions from other universities all the time. So yes, absolutely reach out to me.
So this gives you a little bit of an idea of what our program looks like. As I said, it's a 2-year program. In both either PJ or IS, you would have student teaching. You have your placements at the end of every term. So those are 5 to 6 weeks at the end of a term. So our terms are 9 weeks long, a little bit shorter than the regular term. So the program is a very busy program because you have a regular term's worth of work compressed into 9 weeks. So you can expect to be very busy, and then you're out on placement for the last 5 to 6 weeks of the term. For most terms, you would take a classroom management course. We have a number of required courses that everyone takes, like environmental education, Indigenous education, and then you would do a lot of focus on your teachable areas. So if you're in PJ, that would be a range of teachable areas, and if you're in IS, you would focus on your 2 teachables courses in both years on your in your teachable areas. So depending how your term is laid out, you might be going into your placement 1 day a week for a few weeks before the placement block starts. We use that sometimes in Thunder Bay. This is a good introduction to the classroom placement. Otherwise, as I said, it's 9 weeks and 4, 5, 6 week block, and 9 weeks in a 5 week block. So over the placements are, the requirement for placements in Ontario is 80 days of successful placement, and we have a total of, our placements total of 105 days altogether. So if your first 3 placements go really well, you've met that 80-day placement requirement by the end of your first 3 placements. So your 4th placement can be an alternative placement. It's one of the options we offer. Some students have had 3 strong placements and they want to do another placement in perhaps another regular classroom, or they want to be placed in a board where they hope to get a job one day or something like that. But some students will say, you know, I've got 80 days of practice teaching in these rooms. I'd like to try something a little bit different. And sometimes it's a special education classroom. But for some students, it's, you know, they'll go somewhere else. So they might go to another province where they hope to get work later on. They might do an outdoor education center, things like that. And as Wayne mentioned earlier, it's in that 4th block that we also offer an international placement as one of our options. So I think, will we return to placements, Tori, later on?
We do. We have another slide coming
Right
up on our placements, as well as a slide specifically around the international offerings.
Super. Well, I'll say a bit more. We can try and say a bit more then. So Meredith mentioned our in-house exam math test for incoming PJ students. Every student in the province, when they finish the teacher education program, also now does the math proficiency test. So that's at the PJ or the IS level. That's a requirement of the ministry and the College of Teachers. And we have a requirement on our IS French teachers that they also demonstrate a certain level of proficiency. So that is the DELF B2 at the 70% level. So this is a very high standard that we have for our students. Not everyone who has completed a BA in French, for example, will pass this on the first time taking it. So I encourage you. So there's a high demand for French teachers, and if you're interested in French and you have some background in French, I strongly encourage you to consider that as an area for teaching. But also consider taking the DELF. We will now, in future, we'll be requiring students to show that they've tried the DELF at least once before they start the program. And at some point before you complete the program, if you're in the IS with French as a teachable, you'll have to meet our standard. Wednesdays we offer, or at least we run them on Thunder Bay on Wednesdays. I don't know if they do in Aurelia, but we offer professional seminars where we have teachers or representatives from a variety of organizations, among other people, come in and talk to our students, principals, teachers, special education teachers. They talk about the work of the teacher. They talk about a variety of professional topics. They talk about teachers' unions, the role of some of the various teaching bodies like the College of Teachers and so on. So this is a really good learning opportunity that we have. We also use these to support students learning, for instance, in teaching across different platforms and things like that. So this is like a value-added part of our program that I really like. It's a very strong part of our program because we're able to draw on experts from all sorts of different areas to speak to students.
I will say that we do also have professional seminars in Aurelia.
Are yours on Wednesdays, Meredith?
I think they may have switched them to Fridays this year, but
Right.
they were always Wednesdays in the past.
So you do, as we said, you do 4 placements over the course of your program. You do 1 at the end of each term. Placements are 5 to 6 weeks long. And this is a very important part of your learning in becoming a teacher. We use a graduated learning model where students step in the first week or 2 of placements. They have no teaching responsibility or very little teaching responsibility. And then over the course of their first 3 placements, they work up to 100% of it, 80 to 100% of a regular teaching load. So there's lots of support. We work closely with almost all the boards in the province. So you can request to do your placement at just about any board. We work with teachers in the boards. We have faculty advisors who work with you. So you're supported by at least 2 people, the teacher in the classroom and the faculty advisor. And the demand is very high once you go into the classroom and you start teaching, but there is a lot of support and you do learn at a regular progression. It's not like you're thrown in and asked to do everything at once. I think I've said a fair bit about this. So as I said earlier, the 4th placement, if your first 3 have gone well, you can choose an alternative placement. Another option that some students would choose would be an outdoor recreation center, science center, places where museums, places where there's lots of teaching going on. Other places where they use the Ontario curriculum sometimes. We had a teacher or a student was planning to go to an outdoor rec center just across the border from here in Thunder Bay. And that unfortunately was closed down when COVID came. But we have a lot of very interesting opportunities for people who are looking for something else or a different way to use their teaching degree perhaps. And also there's the opportunity to go elsewhere to other places.
I'm going to throw a question out there before we get too far off of placements, because it's a question we get all the time, is whether or not students have to actually come to the table with their placements in place. So they say to you, this is where I'm going, or do you guys find placements for students? So what kind of supports are in place for students to find those placements?
That's a very good question, because the answer is don't come to the table.
Don't make it worse. Don't make it hard.
We do it all. And in fact, we strongly tell students, so we have students in the program who are saying, I could talk to this school or that school's near me. And we say, you can't do that. You cannot organize your own placement. We will ask you to choose the board you would like to be in. In some cases, we'll say, what are the schools near you? But we will work with the board. And so we have to reach out to the boards and the local schools on your behalf. And in some cases, we even have to cancel placements that students have arranged because there can be conflicts of interest involved and so on. So you have to be really careful. We will ask you what your preference is in terms of where you want to be placed. We will make sure you're not more than a certain distance from home or from wherever you're working from. So you're looked after that way, but we do work with all the boards. Many boards don't want people reaching out to schools, so it varies by board. But we work with each board as they want to be worked with. Good question, Tori.
just always the ones we get when we're talking to students. And, and it's really nice for students definitely that are looking at going to the Thunder Bay program or the Aurelia program, but want to have those placements maybe a little bit closer to home. Coming up to Thunder Bay is a great experience, and then you can come back to Southern and Central Ontario if you want to do your placement there as well. And so those partnerships that we have with the boards really allow that opportunity for students to have a great university experience and then be close to maybe a home board as well.
And the board that you might be thinking that you want to go back to and get a job later on. I will say that we also work very closely with students. Placements don't always go super well at the start. I mean, sometimes it's a big jump into the school life. And for some students, they struggle at first with that. So we provide lots of support. And there are times when we'll say, you know what, your next placement, well, you'll have to do either back near Aurelia or back near Thunder Bay, because then we can support you even more. We can be hands-on in the classroom next to you if need be, or we can work with you on campus. So we do reserve that right. That usually doesn't happen, but we provide lots of other supports as well too. So if someone is having a hard time on placement, sometimes we'll pull them off placement and we'll give them a specialized course to help them develop some additional skills or whatever. So there's lots and lots of support available for those people who struggle on placement too, because it is a big jump. But generally we see an awful lot of success from that first placement to that third placement. And then, as I said earlier, assuming those first three have gone really well, there's the alternative placements. And one option is international placements. So some students would choose, given the chance, to go and try teaching in another place. And so another country in the world. And so we arrange placements. We have someone who arranges placements around the world for us. This year, we're currently planning placements in St. Martin in the Caribbean. We have placements, potential placements organized in the UK, and I'm missing, and Cairo as a possible placement we've learned today. So we have quite a range. In the past, we've had students arrange to go to Malaysia. We've placed lots of students in China, and hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to start that up again too. So there can be lots of opportunities. Of course, the last 2 years, we weren't able to send students anywhere. And so this year we are waiting to get clear direction that that we feel comfortable, the university feels safe sending students elsewhere in the world. But right now things are looking good, and we have confidence we're hopeful that students will be able to go this year. And certainly in the near future, we definitely want to be sending students. So by the end of your program, if you choose to come to Lakehead, we hope to be giving that option to students. Meredith, do you want to speak to this?
Yes, sorry. So one of the differences between our campuses is that at the Aurelia campus, we group our students into cohorts. So the cohorts are determined in year one, and you will take all of your classes together with the cohorts. So you have a chance really to become really kind of aware of each other. You have people that you're familiar with to do your projects with. And the cohort model is actually a really supportive model for students that a lot of the teacher candidates really enjoy and feel that that's, a good way for them to be able to build that collegial atmosphere. So this year our cohorts are online, which has changed things a little bit, but here are some of our most recent cohorts that were physically in the building. So as I said, all of your classes together except for electives.
And as I said, the pod is one of my favorite features of our PJ program in Thunder Bay. The people who teach in the pods our instructors, the university instructors who teach in the pods, form a relationship with the school, with the teachers and the principal in the school. So more opportunities grow over time the longer our pod is in a school. Most of our pods are established. Our pods have a focus either on language arts or math. And so a lot of the learning you do around one of those two things will take place in that school. And that gives you that opportunity that I was talking about earlier to do some of your practice teaching in one of the classrooms or with one of your peers watching you and commenting on how things are going. I can echo one of the things Tori said earlier, which is one of the things that our students really appreciate is the really small classes that we offer. Students often talk, if you walk around in non-COVID times, if you walk around either the building that I work in or Meredith works in, you'll find the doors all open and faculty in their offices. So it's the opportunity to go and to talk to someone. I often have, when I'm not doing the job I'm doing right now, I often have students just walk down the hallway and say, you know, what did you mean in class when you did this? So it's an opportunity that that students don't always find in programs or in larger programs. So we have smaller classes. We have very good relationships with our students. And also those contract lecturers that were mentioned earlier too, they're all either practicing teachers or recently retired principals or teachers who've had really long, really strong careers in teaching. So these people are handpicked and they have an awful lot to offer, a lot of knowledge and close connections to the classroom.
I just want to mention, kind of building on that student experience and the close-knit community that comes with this program. In Thunder Bay, the Faculty of Education is its own standalone building in the Thunder Bay campus, in Aurelia as well. So the Faculty of Education is in its own location. We are actually in a separate location to the University Avenue campus. It's known as our Heritage Place campus, and it's in the downtown core of the Aurelia. And what's really nice about that is when you're in consecutive education, it is a professional program. So it's a little bit different than being in an undergraduate degree at that point. And it really does allow you to have that really unique student experience being in those designated buildings and designated campuses as well, and build those relationships. So I want to go back to boards again. There's probably the questions we get the most around placements and how placements work. And we've already had a few questions about delivery moving forward and stuff as well. I know there's been an increased call-in, I guess, for interest in the consecutive education program. We noticed increased interest in consecutive education program partway through the pandemic, and it's steadily continued, which is fantastic. It's been an industry that has been a great industry for so many years, and many individuals were kind of a little bit weary, even though there's so much diversity on what you can do with a Bachelor of Education. And it's so great to have so many individuals wanting to come in and do their Bachelor of Education and get connected into either teaching or all the other aspects of a Bachelor Education as well. So that board placement, and the placements is a big one that many times, especially students that have had an undergrad and have been out in the workplace for a number of years and now coming back into a professional program again, maybe with some other life and family commitments, and trying to figure out how that's going to work. So just, can you talk a little bit more? And the question we had posed was specifically around Simcoe County. And I know, Dawn, you had mentioned, you know, you can specify what board you'd like to work in. So if a student specifies, I'd like to be in the York board or in Peel board or in Simcoe County, is it potentially that they're going to be able to have all 4 placements and in that board, or could they be moved around from boards as well?
That's a good question. Likely they would get, so we asked before each placement where you would like to be placed, and we don't expect that students will necessarily want to do all 4 placements in one board, but we'll ask you where you want to be placed each time. And I think in most cases, students probably do all 4 placements in one board, or, you know, wherever their preference is. And certainly we don't let, if you live in a particular place in Toronto, we would say, you know, the maximum commute you could have would be up to an hour. And we try to keep the commute much less than that if we can.
I'm wondering if someone can talk about, and I apologize if I missed it as I was paying attention to slides and chat and Q&A, but also how the placements work. So if I'm in a PJ student, you know, what type of classroom or grade level am I going to teach within my placements within a PJ? And if I'm an IS student, am I always going to be teaching a grade 7 class? So I would love for you guys to elaborate on that a little bit further.
I can certainly say about the IS. So some students are surprised at the IS level. What they have in mind is 2 high school subjects, and you're certified as a teacher to teach grade 7 through grade 12. So at least one of your placements, and sometimes a couple of your placements, will be at the 7-8 level. We make sure all of our IS students get placed in a 7-8 classroom or 7-8 setting, as well as their teachable subjects in high school. So that's something that sometimes comes as a surprise. People aren't thinking 7 or 8 when they come in, but there's, it's a big part of the role of a teacher, and there's certainly lots of teaching jobs for one thing at that level. Sorry, go ahead, Meredith.
Oh, I was going to add to that, giving the PJ perspective, that as someone who's taught a variety of grades from K to 12, the kind of skills that you need really in a K to 3 position to be able to teach and keep the class engaged and monitor what's happening are very different than the kind of skills you need in 4, 5, 6. So we try to make sure that students have, or that teacher candidates have, a mixture of placements too. When things go well, I think they try to do one of each in each year, but that doesn't always happen. And then we throw in there too that we have a kindergarten, like an inquiry-based kindergarten program. So lots of different kinds of experiences that help broaden your ability to work with children who have different levels of not just intellectual competence, but also or academic competence, but also different needs and different amounts of independence. That's a big difference between teaching like kindergarten grade 1 and teaching grade 5, 6.
Awesome, thank you for that. And I'm gonna ask another question, because we had this posed a little bit earlier, and we did provide some information, but just to expand on that a little bit more. So could one of you speak a little bit about our outdoor ecology experiential education cohort, or the option for doing that as well as part of the education program?
So right now, you could do a combined concurrent program in outdoor rec and education. Our outdoor ed option, so every student in our programs takes an environmental ed course, one of the required courses, and our outdoor ed option right now is teachable in environmental science. So that's an interdisciplinary teachable, and Tina can say a little bit more about the background required, or the background you might bring with you into environmental science. And it teaches you to teach the Ontario curriculum, or that we prepare you to teach the Ontario curriculum in environmental science. Tina, can you say a little bit about the requirements for environmental science, and maybe also for social sciences general while we're talking about it?
Yes. So for the environmental science, you need at least 3 different areas, and they can be from anthropology, astronomy, biology, chemistry, geography, environmental studies, of course, geology, and as Dr. Kerr mentioned, outdoor recreation, physics, general science. And often with the outdoor rec program, you can have majority of your courses in the outdoor rec area, but then you need the other 3 disciplines as well, or another 2 disciplines as well to mix that up. So that's the nice thing about the outdoor rec program. For social science general, let's see here, my wonderful list, my little cheat note. You need anthropology, philosophy, psychology, religious studies, sociology, or women's studies. So again, 3 of those areas. And often we have students that come from a background in psychology. So psychology automatically is one of those. And then you would need another 2 from the other areas.
Awesome, thanks so much. So we're going to pause for a second, and I'm not saying we're going to pause on education specific questions. So if you do have some additional questions regarding the Faculty of Education, the program, how it runs, cohorts, pods, but we're going to switch gears a little bit. Julie has been so busy in the background answering questions related to transcripts and application processes and assessments. We're going to ask her to pause for a second on answering all those questions behind the scenes, and actually come onto camera for a little bit and do some information on the application process.
Awesome. Thanks, Tori. So now that we've all had this amazing opportunity to learn more about our consecutive education program offerings and all the unique and exciting things that's involved in these programs, let's take a look into more of the nitty-gritty and get into some of the admission requirements and the next steps that you'll be looking forward to. So first thing, we did already talk a little bit about the admission requirements, but we are just going to reiterate it a little bit further. So to be considered for the 2-year consecutive education program, you must have completed a 3 or 4-year undergraduate degree at an accredited institution. We are looking for a minimum average of 70% in your last 10 full course equivalents, and that you meet the teaching subject requirements if you've applied to our intermediate senior stream. And as an admissions officer, I do work really closely with Tina. So if you're unsure if you meet teachable requirements, just let us know and we'll work together to see if we can make it work. So we do encourage students as well who identify as Indigenous, mature, and persons with disabilities to apply. If you feel that you've been academically disadvantaged due to a disability or other circumstances, we do encourage you to outline this through a personal statement or a profile, just so our admission officers can be aware. And while we do accept both 3- and 4-year undergraduate degrees, students with a 4-year honors degree are given preference to the program. Deadlines and important dates. So these are some deadlines and dates you're going to want to note on your calendar, and coming up very quickly is the deadline to apply. And that is December 1st, which is exactly 1 month away. So mark your calendar if you're interested in education, the 2-year program, because December 1st is your deadline to apply. To apply, you'll do so through the TEAS application on the OUAC. That's a lot of acronyms, but it's the TEAS application, not to be confused with the 105, the TEAS application on the OUAC portal. That will get you your application into Lakehead, and we can get started on the assessment. The earliest that you'll hear back from us is February 1st. So don't expect to hear back right away, but you'll hear back from us as the earliest, just February 1st. All right. And at Lakehead, we're truly a multicultural campus, so we celebrate the cultures, traditions, and backgrounds of all of our students. And we recognize you as individuals and that you might come to Lakehead with some different requirements and different levels of support that you need to reach your goals. So we offer various supports like academic supports, student accessibility services, career planning. We offer education-specific job fairs, and then financial aid support as well. Your health and well-being is also super important to us, so our counseling team is available to support you. We offer yoga and meditation sessions throughout the year, as well as provide cooking lessons and just general ways to stay healthy. During certain parts of the year, we also bring in therapy dogs. It's actually my favorite part of the year is happening right now on campus once a week. I believe they're bringing the therapy dogs, and so I got to get myself down to Lake Tamblyn and check it out. And then of course, today is just the start of your Lakehead journey. So if perhaps you still have questions, maybe something that didn't get answered tonight, I do encourage you to join us on December 8th at 4 p.m. for our virtual open house. Here you'll be able to chat with faculty members such as those here tonight on the panel, and connect with our various student support departments, so like admissions, residents, student accessibility, all sorts of services will be there that you can chat with and learn a little bit more about Lakehead. And of course, we would love for you to stay connected with us through social media. You can see what it's like to truly be a Lakehead Thunderwolf. So thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time out of your evening to join us to learn more about Lakehead's consecutive education program. And I also just want to take the time to extend a huge thank you to our fantastic panelists from the Faculty of Education for taking the time out of your night to join us and help promote some of our programs and give students a little bit more information about this consecutive program. And at this time, I would like to offer all the folks here attending, if you have any questions that haven't been asked or you'd like for us to ask the panelists live, feel free to pop them down into the Q&A function now. And I'll check in with Tori and see if there are any questions at this point for our panelists. But again, thanks for joining, and I'll get Tori to check in on that Q&A.
Yeah, we've been doing pretty good. There's been a lot of questions, lots of conversations back and forth. So huge thanks to our members of the panel as well that have been helping answering lots of questions through the chat and the Q&A as we go. There's been a number of email addresses posted in the chat for further follow-up. If you after this evening, you're like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning or on the weekend, and you're like, I have another question, you want to just go to recruit@lakeheadu.ca. We can put you in contact with whoever you need from the faculty end of things as well. well. I do want to just let you know we have relaunched our in-person campus tour program. So if you want to come up to Thunder Bay and meet with the faculty from Thunder Bay virtually after the campus tour, you'll have a chance to tour our Thunder Bay campus. For Aurelia, we're setting up appointments as well for individuals interested in the consecutive education program to connect with faculty and have a walk around virtually through our Heritage Place campus at this point. So lots of ways to continue to explore campus and learn more about the programs. Yeah, I think we're doing good. Everyone was amazing this afternoon. So thanks everybody for all, not only the great questions, but to our panelists as well. So supporting the webinar this evening and answering the questions as they were coming in. It was a busy one for sure. I did see some questions about it being recorded. Yes, we have been recording the webinar this evening. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the webinar fluffed up a little bit, make sure that we trim off some of the content and put it in a nice little package. We will be posting it onto YouTube, and we'll make sure that everyone who has attended the webinar this evening or have not attended the webinar will have access to the YouTube presentation this evening. I know we go through a lot of information, and sometimes it's really nice to watch a video back and see what did they say about, intermediate senior teachables, and what did they say about that math exam. So we will be posting that on YouTube, and we'll make sure everyone attending the webinar this evening receives notice of that as well. I think that's good. Thank you so much to everyone. We hope you have a great rest of the night, and do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any further questions or concerns. Thanks so much.